Hi guys, Mr. Jaeger here, and welcome back to the 2952 International Aerospace Expo. And hello. Yes, it's Crusader Day. Yes, our dear old friends at Crusader Industries have once again decided to don their best uniforms and entered into the fray, bringing with them, of course, their classic yet incredibly versatile ships, the Crusader Hercules. They've got the MSR in the buildings over yonder. We've got, hang on, let's go quickly interrupt these people. Excuse me. So we have got our usual friends at the start, the C2, A2, and M2 Starlifters. We've got the MSR, the Crusader Ares, and Tumbril Nova as well has also donned the floor. We've even got some of their vessels in the ground over there. So today's episode may be a quick one. No, you don't believe it, do you? Neither do I. So today we grace once more the IAE with the presence of another ship manufacturer, and I go about talking about how much I like or dislike the potential vessels. So without further ado, let's get cracking. And of course, we can't start any Crusader Industries Day event without talking about, in my opinion, the poster child and probably the most famous vessel in the entire fleet of Crusader Industries. Now, the MSR may be famous for being the Millennium Falcon of Star Citizen, and the Ares Inferno may be considered famous for being the A10 of Star Citizen, but I challenge you to find any particular reason why this ship should not be the first in the minds of everyone when they think Crusader Industries. This incredible ship is, of course, the C2 variant of the Hercules Starlifter, followed on its left-hand side by its M2 variant, and of course, my version is in the background carrying the big boy toys, which I will be discussing in great length, probably, in the next few minutes. So what exactly is the Hercules Starlifter, and why the hell am I talking about it with such passion? Well, apart from the fact that I'm somewhat of a Crusader fanboy, I will describe the more objective benefits to this particular vessel over most other forms of transport and cargo hauling. So the first big benefit about this particular vessel over most other cargoes is that this is currently the largest SCU carrying vessel that's flyable in Star Citizen, carrying 696 SCUs worth of cargo, which, if you are a dedicated trader, is a lot of money to potentially be made inside Star Citizen. It is also a very easy vessel to fly, looking fairly like a plane, giving you that ability to be able to easily maneuver the thrusters and do all the wonderful things. It also has two entrances. You've got the front and the rear, giving you total freedom to load cargo, vehicles, or what have you in whichever form you wish, which is very, very nice. Having a lovely little elevator on the side, but I am a ladder man. I like my ladders in ships, because I don't trust them in this game, whilst my rig is kinda shit. So, going up into the second floor, you can see we have a absolutely beautiful mixture between utilitarian and beautiful in its design. We have incredibly cool looking engine positions, which in the future, of course, we have our components options here, which in the future, ooh, shiny, in the future, we will have engineering reasons to be back here, but at the moment, it's a lot of show and not a lot of tell. And, of course, wonderful habitation. We have our own personal lockers, which is nice, and very nice-looking escape pods that double up as beds. And a TV, because, Star Citizen, we need TVs. And on the other side of this thing, on the other side of the C2 variant, we have a recreation section. Yes, we have a wonderful point where the civilians, who have totally no weapons at all, will be absolutely happy just to chill here, making themselves some meals, some food, or what have you. Which the other variants of this ship will have varying degrees of... Well, to be fair, the M2 variant of this ship doesn't have any other real changes except this room here, whereupon it's basically an armory. But we'll be seeing that in the A2 variant, so I'll be showing. We won't be hopping into the M2 variant to save on time, but I will be showing the M8. We won't be putting in the M2 variant to save on time, but we will be seeing the A2 variant because there's a big difference with that one. So as we make our way down through this area, which once again we have component access, which for NG's sake is pretty cool. Which, oh, by the by, we also have not only the beautiful control on how these particular ships work, with their door locks and everything else, we also have the complete ability to turn on or off certain bits of lighting. Because why the fuck not? Why the fuck not? It is wonderful. And also, let's not forget, you can also turn on or off the ability to control this particular thing. So, you know, really, 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 really cool. Not gonna lie, this is really good. And as we make our way into the cockpit, we actually find a relatively good cockpit. It's a little bit far in my eyes. Like, I'm getting flashbacks to the Freelancer series, where for some reason, where you need a pair of binoculars in order to see out the front of the vessel. However, in this particular ship's case, there's actually kind of a good reason, because basically this frontal section of the ship, oh god, is actually designed with a cargo ramp in mind, which in comparison to the Freelancer, which doesn't, and is there's like extremely like a fucking third of the size of the Hercules, there's no reason for it to have that. In terms of the MFD test, sadly the Crusader Industries does kind of fail, at least on my particular screen. Kind of fail. 3 out of the 4 are required can be visible, but there's one in particular which admittedly is more of a communications deck you can't see out of. You have to manually look, which again is not actually a problem, finger quote, but it is a little thing that I do to keep an eye, you know, that whenever I'm getting into a ship, it's something that I notice immediately is, okay, which MFDs am I going to have to look at, and which MFDs do I not have to look, manually move my camera to look at, versus MFDs I will need to move my camera to look at, which is a bit of a shame. But to be fair, again, this is a very large vessel, so there is a good reason as to why it doesn't work. Anyway, so we'll get out of the ship via the nicely provided elevator, because unlike the raft, we can actually exit the ship using the elevator, which is, you know, kind of a nice thing. There we go. There's the rather cool looking. It's not perfect, I'll be fair. For some reason, the invisible elevator with no pulley system thingy works, but, well, you no-clip through the elevator doors, which in the grand scheme of things isn't really a problem. I'll be honest. It's not really a problem. It's not a bad problem, it's just not really a big problem. So, going over to the other variants, you can see that there's a couple of obvious differences between the C2 and the M2, not just because of the painting scheme, although it does look nice, but also in terms of armament. For example, we see a couple of size 5 weapons here on a turret, whereas this vessel doesn't have that. But of course, apart from that, apart from a slightly smaller cargo space and maybe a couple more guns here or there, the M2 variant is not that much of a different thing. It's more designed to carry these big buggers, which we'll get into in a min. But this version, which does have a couple of size 5 guns on the turret, which can be accessed on the cockpit area. But there's a particularly large difference between this edition and other editions, and I'm going to show you just which one that is. That's why. So the A2 variant of the Starlifter still can carry vehicles. It's still technically a transport vessel. However, the other main incentive of this particular ship is that it is a dedicated bomber, utilizing these beautiful things. Yeah, you see the word there, mob. Should be Moab, but we'll call it mob. Yes, so the Firestorm Kinetics size 10 Moab bombs. That's right, we've got bombs, and we've got big fucking bombs. And if we want to open the bomb bay doors, or the back door, as this particular thing will show, basically, when you go into, you can actually go and bomb targets in Star Citizen, and having bombed a couple locations already, I can very much assure you, it is a most satisfying endeavor to see a giant fucking bomb just hear the explosion. It is truly a wonderful thing. Ah, there it is. So if we were to enter this... Oh, does it do anything? No. Oh well. I think this is the engineering station, which technically speaking should be manned in order to man the bombs, but, you know, it's fine. But apart from this, there is almost no difference between the other variants, of course, and the C2 variant. Now, the other thing, of course, that we will be talking about is the armory, because as mentioned, the M2 and, well, as mentioned, the M2 variant of this ship, instead of having a nice habitation and recreation deck, instead has armory and turrets. This one having turrets additions. So as you can see, we got a lovely turret. And we then have an armory. So this is basically where all the dudes with the daggers get to enjoy. And this is the wonderful dagger section. So having one lovely little... It looks cool, though. I mean, we have all the suit rooms. We've got all the other things. We've got the armory section over here. You can sort of build up. And yes, as mentioned... Well, I forgot to mention, instead of having the recreation, it's turrets and armory. Which is, yeah, lovely. It also looks really cool in this lighting as well. Oh, I just love it. But yeah, so the C2 and A2, the M2 and C8, the M2 and A2 Hercules, apart from sharing obviously the size 10 bombs, are almost exactly the same in terms of their design philosophy. Which is not a bad thing, I won't lie. But yes, so that's my perfect reason for owning an A2, which is fuck everything around the area that you're standing in right now. So fuck you and everywhere else, because I'm bombing it. So now we go from the big boys with the guns and bombs to the big boys with the guns and the cannons. So this, of course, is the Tumbril Nova tank, or more famously known as Tonk, as one of the developers whose French accent was too thick for it to survive, and hello sir, and basically his French accent overwhelmed his English, and he says Tonk, and the community responded in a community style fashion and said no, this isn't a tank, this is a Tonk. But yes, so this beautiful vehicle, utilizing a size 5 cannon with the size... So actually I can even be a bit more specific on the name, in fact. This is the size 5 Slayer cannon. Yeah. Hercule even has this thing. With two size 2 CF227 Badgers. That bloody Badger repeater thing. They've made a fucking mint since they've made physical projectile ammo more expensive. It's ridiculous. But no, as I was saying, the Tonk, or tank, as we have it, is a 3-crewed monstrosity with the capacity to do high levels of damage, and it even includes a couple of size 2 missile launchers inside the vessel and the back area here next to be fair, we need once again to fucking stand to be able to see what we're talking about here. But on the back of the turret there is a missile launcher which can be utilized to attack ground targets. At the moment, the time of this recording, I have not personally utilized this missile launcher in actual combat, and to be fair, I've not actually used this vehicle in actual combat. I do own one of these things, but I am in the process of thinking on probably upgrading it to something a bit better, because obviously there's not, once again, this vehicle, it's beautiful and slightly clipping through on the wheels. Yeah, it's kind of slightly clipping through. And once again, this beautiful vehicle doesn't really have that much of a use outside of clan ops, which again is kind of sad considering the potential this vehicle has, and I'm looking very much forward to seeing what kind of stuff this vehicle can do, because if we can get it to into a position where you need one of these buggers to break through a front line, it makes breaking through a front line of an AI mission that much easier. Can you imagine how fucking awesome it would be to be like, yeah, let's get the fucking tank out, you know? That would be awesome. But there's also multiple colors skins, which I'm a little sad that they didn't do that. Like, it would make sense. Like, you have the green one here, the winter camo there, and the desert camo on the other side. I just would have done it that way. But hey-ho, I'm not Star Citizen. So as we go into the vehicle, we actually are surprised by how small the compartments are and how little crew needs to be there, which is kind of cool. And we get to see the different slots. So obviously, gunner slot, which makes sense. He's the gunner. He gets to have the fancy joystick with the viewport. Is that a key? No. Okay. We have our driver spot on the left side, sadly not a British driver, and we have our commander slot on the right. Now the commander has access not only to a 360-degree view all around from the frontal point, he also has access to the turrets, which is pretty cool. But the interesting thing here is that the driver not only has the ability, obviously having a driver thing, but also has the ability to use the turret as well, which is pretty intriguing, to say the least. So in theory, in order to operate the vehicle, you don't actually need... Oop. There we go. Gotta get the hell out the tunk. There we go. So you don't actually need 3 crew members in order to work the machine. Now, obviously, giving the driver the same role as the gunner may not be considered a tactically intelligent move. Sure, you can get more tanks out if you have less crew, but you may also find yourself struggling to keep them coordinated. Because if, like, the thing is, let's face it, tank combat is not easy. You know, tank combat, to quote certain games, is not at all like boxing. So you need to have a level of cohesion and effectiveness in order to make these things viable on the battlefield. And giving one person too many roles, as we've seen in history, doesn't quite work as well as you think it does. But no, so as a ground combat vehicle, the Nova tank is most certainly a vehicle that I look forward to seeing in the front lines, and hopefully on my side for that. So, we enter into the second and sadly last room before we hit the holodecks, and we are presented with 3 lovely images. Well, 1 lovely image and 2 blasphemies, depending on your mindset with regards to Star Citizen lore. In my case, I am kind of on the side of I like Daka Daka, so these vessels will still look beautiful in my eye. And we are here, of course, talking about the Ares Starfighter Inferno and the Ares Starfighter Ion, and of course the Mercury Star Runner, or more famously known as MSR. So, starting things off, let's talk about the Ares Starfighter Inferno. So again, there's a bit of a controversy, I would say, in the Star Citizen community / lore, because depending on your mindset with regards to Crusader Industries, you may find this vessel to be a sign of the changing times, or your annoyance with CIG for mucking around with the lore of Crusader Industries. Because previously, Crusader Industries was not about making fighters and bombers and all that jazz. It was more about trying to make ships for the people and less about for military. And obviously, this is the first vessel that goes, fuck that, I want to kill someone. So obviously, again, potentially a controversial ship design / ship for people in Star Citizen lore fans. But in my case, I fucking love it. It is a beautiful vessel with a very, very lovely reason for being alive. And I'm a simple man. I see gun, I like. And big gun, me like more. Did someone just trip? Oh, for a second, it looked like he tripped. But anyway, so this vessel is, of course, designed as a capital ship fighter, designed primarily to work in conjunction with the Ares Ion, and of which the Ion, having a size 7 energy weapon, is designed to basically punch a hole in a larger ship. I'm going to go with Javelin for the sake of ease. I can't remember the other one. Not Ifrit. Idris, that's the word I was looking for. So yeah, looking for the Idris and basically planting a size 7 las shot into the side of a shield, knocking it out potentially, and then my ship would come in, or multiple ships would then come in with its size 7 Gatling gun, completely raking the hull with massive levels of bullets and firepower. Now, of course, in Star Citizen, not every battle that you're going to be in is going to be against an Idris. So the question doth beg, is it at all any good in normal combat? Well, I can't say anything for the Ion, as I've actually never flown the Ion, but I have flown the Ares Inferno in combat, and I'll also add the caveat PvE. Mostly in bounty hunting missions and occasional clearing out the asteroid field missions. And I can say that this vessel can do a pretty good job. It completely annihilates the prospector ships inside the clearing the asteroid mission, where you've got to like blow up the sentry turrets and everything. Or if you're rolling around doing a bounty job. However, I can also say that this vehicle does have a couple of weaknesses. First, it is a medium fighter, and as such, and also because of the giant gun, its maneuverability, while being extremely good, and a lot better than I thought it was going to be, considering the size 7 gun that we got on the background here, it unfortunately does struggle a lot when it comes to keeping the gun on target. When you've got on the target, like say for example an Origin M50, the Aurora. Seriously, the Aurora makes me look like an idiot. Obviously the Arrow, or the or what was else? Christ, what else? I want to say. Yes, any size 1, basically any small starter, small ships like that, this ship is going to struggle with, without a shadow of a doubt. But still, the gun, yeah, so basically the maneuverability is great, but it's not that great. The other disadvantage, which kind of plays into the maneuverability disadvantage, is that it doesn't have, well, at least with the Ares Inferno, it doesn't have a spool-up gun option, which is a little crippling, because whenever you pull the trigger, you will have to wait a couple of seconds before the gun goes into full motion, which means if you're trying to get a target that is only available in your sights for maybe a second or two, you will not be able to output the full level of damage that you would intentionally want to have unless you can do something to stun the target, or if you're capable of pilot, you can basically maneuver to give the bastard what for. Now, in terms of weapons, obviously, as mentioned, the Ares Inferno has a size 7 Gatling gun, and as you saw also in the cockpit, which also passes the MFD test. It passes the MFD test, so it allows me to fully see what I need to see without having too much to worry about, which is big thumbs up. It utilizes the 7FB, the SF7B, which is of course beautiful because it works so well, and it is very dangerous. It also utilizes 8 Viper size 3 missiles with 12 Orestes size 3 missiles also, which is a lovely thing. This thing is chock full of missiles and death, and I love it. Now, in comparison, what does the Ares Ion utilize as part of the weapons? Well, it has the same missile loadout, so that's a fun, easy thing to learn. So, as said, 8 size 3 Viper 3s and 8 size 3 Arrestor 12s. But instead, of course, the Gatling gun, you have got instead an SF7E laser gun, size 7, which is ridiculous. Like, it is genuinely ridiculous. But the interesting thing here, of course, is that the intention of this weapon is not to just try and blow up ships, although it does help. But again, it's designed to try and remove the shielding. It's meant to try and remove the big threat in the room, which naturally means it's not going to have as high an output of damage as perhaps the Ares Ion Inferno. Oh god, can you imagine that? A fucking starfighter with both the ion cannon and the fucking gun. That would be overpowered and stupid. But hey, there are stranger things in Star Citizen. Oh dear god. Anyway, so finishing our journey with the wonderful starfighters, we are now presented with the famous ship, which kind of launched, which launched the Crusader Industries into the stratosphere and then into space, because holy shit, does the community love this ship or what? Oh, music cut. So this, of course, is the Mercury Star Runner. It has it was the first ship of Crusader Industries to grace itself into the Star Citizen universe, and that feels like a fucking age ago. Sorry, I'm just looking on the webpage for Star Citizen Tools, and it says it was introduced in Alpha 3.11.1, and I'm like, that feels like years ago, and it probably was. God, how time flies. So this is a dedicated, well, it's a mixture. It's primarily a courier ship, as what it's listed as. But primarily it's a kind of the Millennium Falcon of Star Citizen. It has its own vehicle bay, which allows you to carry a various number of supplies and also, ground stuff. It utilizes 114 SCUs worth of cargo, so if you don't want the vehicle, you can at least transport the cargo room, which is quite nice. It also, to be fair, we can probably go into the thing in a second, and it was also the first ship to utilize the intelligent button array, which is pretty freaking cool. It also has, apart from a little elevator that I never use because this is the fastest and most effective way of getting up out of it, it also utilizes data transmission as well. Data storage computers is as it's listed on the website. Basically, built-in encryption protocols, data kill switches, and customizable security that allows the Mercury to ensure that private information never falls into the wrong hands. It also has a scanning station, which allows you to collect data on missions or for private resale or for informing various corporations about bad things may be occurring. It also has a shielded storage system, because as mentioned, this is the Millennium Falcon of Star Citizen, and the reason why we call it the Millennium Falcon of Star Citizen is because of that. Fucking people and their stupid... Right, so... Bit of a surprise killed, but basically, as you can see, we have a little smuggler's den, which if you hop into the rear, it actually has said it's a shielded system, which means anyone who wants to try and sneak some maybe prohibited items, or wants to hide from pirates, or wants to, pretend that they're Han Solo attempting to escape, they have this wonderful room in which to hide into, and the varying degrees of little hidey hole knick-knack locations in which you can actually do that, which is pretty cool. There's also component storage here, which is pretty cool. So again, this was the ship that had oh hello, the doors are bugging. Oh, okay, they've broken the Expo edition. Well done, game. Well done, you two. Well done, players. You buggered yourselves. Right, let's see if I can remember. Oh, hello. Scanning room. We can get up out of it. Nice. So, we make our way towards the two turrets located over yonder, which, in terms of weapons, it's basically got a pair of size 3 turrets. The turret side of things is not that impressive. It's not... weapon-wise, this is a ship that's not really... Turrets and weapons is not a thing that you should really be thinking on when it comes to... did someone lock this thing? I think the thing's just glitched, unfortunately. But this thing has the same... pigs here. Unfortunately, yeah, I think this particular edition is either locked and some pricks are at the front, or most likely the vessel is kind of buggered. Or it might not be. You may have some pricks at the front who just want to lock the things. Because we can't have nice things in Star Citizen. But then again, we have seen the interior of the ship before in the previous videos. And if you haven't seen what the inside of an MSR looks like by now, yeah. Which is a bit of a shame. It's a little disappointing, but unfortunately that's what happens when the game gets more popular. You get the Muppets who run around trying to ruin other people's fun, because God forbid you have people who have nice things, and we have fun with those nice things. But no, the MSR is undoubtedly a versatile, enjoyable craft, which does allow for multi-crew accessibility, but also has the ability to, which also has the capacity to be rather fun for newer players to enjoy the wonders of the verse, whilst also being able to see the real heroes of the system, which Crusader Industries more than certainly has. And I'm totally not biased in saying that. So we've arrived at the bottom of the field next to our wonderful holodeck, and before we wrap up today, we'll obviously have a look at the mainstay of Tumbril. While the Nova Tonk has definitely made an impact in Star Citizen, we can't forget, of course, the original foundation that made itself known, and to a degree to this day still is being utilized by a large portion of the community, especially for the Racing Edition. So this, of course, I am talking about the Tumbril Cyclone. So the Tumbril Cyclone is a 2-person Jeep, and this particular variant being the TR, which has a size 1 machine gun on the top. Yellow Jacket G110 to be super specific. Basically, I tend to refer this as the Warthog of Star Citizen. There's a lot of Star Citizens of this point, but it makes kind of sense. Now, so basically, it is kind of the Warthog of Star Citizen. You've got you've got the driver's spot, you've got the passenger slot, and you've got the gunner's slot. And there are multiple, and I mean multiple variants, one of which I kind of feel that supersedes the other by quite some margin. Because as mentioned, this is a sort of light reconnaissance scout role, this is a dedicated anti-air role with a couple of size 2 missiles on it, and this one is kind of overkill. I'm gonna be brutal. So this edition, I don't know what they consider this to be light reconnaissance, but I'm going to call this heavy reconnaissance because it's got a couple of size 2, well, 4 size 2 dominators, whereas the other variant has just got size 2, well, it's got size 2 dominators, but it doesn't have a fucking turret with a tarantula on the fucking front, or 9 series longsword to be specific. So, you know, dedicated autocannon with with an infrared torch, infrared scope, and missiles to boot. Yeah, this thing is probably what I would call a light skirmish vehicle rather than a light reconnaissance vehicle. So, holy shit. Honestly. It's ridiculous. It's truly ridiculous. But those vessels, of course, are not the only, or vehicles are not the only ground vehicles on the side. They're the more militaristic ones, but this, of course, have the other variants. So this one is the actual original tumbril Cyclone, and as mentioned, it's a really fun vehicle to drive in. Years ago, I would like to say 2018, just as I was getting back into the whole Star Citizen thing, a mate of mine and I drove around Levski, and we took one of his tumbril Cyclones, and basically we fucked around in the low G atmosphere, which is really hilarious. This edition of the ship is the RN, which is kind of, again, I think it's just like reconnaissance. I think it's just like another variant of the ship, which looks pretty cool. I can't honestly say there's a giant... Yeah, like, well, it's apparently even more like reconnaissance, so providing scanning, utilizing scanning equipment. But again, it's nothing that special. But the one version I would say that is probably the most famous and is currently still in use by the most is the tumbril Cyclone RC. Now there's one main reason for this. This little booster here. This particular vessel actually now has, which for a long time was removed, but then they reintroduced it, which is pretty cool, which is basically, they added a booster technology to it. So, yeah, that's actually pretty fucking cool. I don't know how often you can use the boost on this particular vessel, but still, I am a big fan of the booster technology, which, you know, and again, this particular vehicle has been seen a lot in the Daymar rally. It's actually one of the more prime components of the Daymar rally. So eventually, we're hopefully going to see some other vehicles in the game, but this particular one does look pretty damn cool, especially with its red livery and everything, and its, you know, back, whatever. And as mentioned, the racing potential, and also in next patch as it's coming out, is actually going to be focusing a fair amount on racing vehicles. So you may find that this this vehicle here may in fact become even more famous, which I hope so, because the racing community in Star Citizen is an absolutely incredible thing, which I honestly hope doesn't die, because the amount of people who tune in to watch that thing just keeps growing, and I need to tune in one time and watch it for myself, because while I've not seen any of the races, in the group that I'm with, like the org I was with, they had guys who went into this competition and they were going up against like hundreds of other people just to qualify for the event. So you know the racing community is definitely there. So we're here, already at the end. I'm a bit sad. But we are here at the end of a wonderful day with very beautiful ships, and now we get to see even more beautiful ships on the horizon. And we're starting with Tumbril's Ranger bike. For some reason, I want to keep calling it the Nova. It's like, no, not everything's the Nova. But no, these are the Tumbril's Ranger TR variants of bikes. Now, there are other variants of bikes in production, obviously. We've got the RC, which is, again, kind of like, if you imagine, if you will, the Ranger has both the bog standard version, which is this. Well, to be fair, the bog standard, I think they did the bog standard version, which is just like the unarmed edition. Then there is this version, which is the military edition. And then you've got the RC edition, which is, of course, the combat edition. And then there's, I believe, a small cargo class, or I think the normal edition is the cargo class. I can't honestly say. It's been a very long time since I actually I heard anything about these particular bikes. I got these years ago, and they've the pledge was sort of sitting in my itinerary. So as recently as this event, I upgraded from this package to the Cutter series, which I feel is an upgrade very much worth taking. Though I will be purchasing these vehicles closer to the time of their release, because again, I really fancied having a ground bike in Star Citizen and not a skimmer bike, because I don't like skimmer bikes. So yes, a very awesome display, and I very much look forward to seeing these bikes in action when they do release, whatever time that may be. And, ooh, hello. Yes, you must be the C2 or C1 Spirit, am I correct? Yes, I'm correct. So this is Star Citizen's, Star Citizen. This is Crusader Industries' attempt at shrinking down the Crusader and making it a tad more affordable for the rest of us. It didn't quite go to plan with the affordability. No, to be fair, the affordability is actually quite good. In comparison to other... In comparison, the pledge has definitely been most certainly surprising, to say the least. And I honestly am really liking this ship. I personally have bought the A1 edition of this ship, which of course is the bomber variant of the ship. So very much similar to the C2, very much similar to the Hercules edition. The C1 edition, or the Spirit, as this particular vessel is known as, is basically a smaller version of the Hercules, utilizing the same style technology, same engine deck and everything, but instead of utilizing, of course, the giant entrance at the front and the back, I think it's just got the entrance at the back of the ship. As you can see, I think I can see like the cargo deck along towards yonder. But the cool thing is, I said, this particular vessel has... Well, to be fair, you can even see the paint scheme. It looks almost finished, to be fair, which looks awesome. I look forward to seeing this vessel in the verse, and it looks stunning. I love the front section there. I love the... to be fair, the model does have... When you zoom in, you can definitely see the basicness of the model. But still, it looks absolutely gorgeous, and I very much look forward to seeing this in the verse. But no, as mentioned, it is basically a smaller version of the C2, but much more affordable, being at £112 standalone package on the main website. So definitely, it's just a tad. If you're looking at the upgrade option, it's just a tad more expensive, or around the same price bracket as the Cutlass Black, which means that this particular vessel could be a competitor for the Cutty Black spot. Will it win? I can't say. I don't think it will, because the Cutty Black does have an advantage over... does have that VTOL advantage in terms of its... Why am I hitting something? Oh, well. It does have that kind of advantage with its VTOL engines, its manned turrets, its the two cargo doors at the side. So it's very difficult to say what is definitely... it will be difficult to say whether this vehicle beats the slot, but I think this vessel will be a very, very awesome competitor in terms of what kind of options you can have. Like, slightly more expensive, but you get a Crusader quality ship, which means a lot. Definitely means a lot. And what do we have for our last one? Oh, hello. Yes, this vessel. Now, I didn't think they would be showing this vessel off, and this is the first time I've seen this vessel inside Star Citizen. This is the Genesis Starliner. Now, this is a 100% a dedicated transport vessel. Now, basically, if you've played Star Citizen for any reasonable amount of time, you'll no doubt have seen the trailers, or let's say trailers, the posters for this particular vessel. And to finally see one in the verse is rather stunning. Basically, imagine this is a Boeing 747. That's effectively what this is. This is a very famous transport ship which is meant to ferry passengers from A to B. And probably, in the future, will be responsible for ferrying players from sector to sector, depending on if they're... And also probably run by players if there are any dedicated fans of Microsoft Flight Simulator looking at this game going, huh... but yeah, so this particular ship does look really, really cool. And while I'm not a huge fan of... to be fair, I like the aesthetics. This is a very, very pretty plane, and I look forward to seeing this in the verse as well, because again, I'm not going to lie, I am a fan of this design. It looks amazing. Is that cargo bay? That does look like a cargo bay. So no, this particular vessel does look really cool, and I do hope to see this more. I would like to see something like this in the future, but again, there's no real reason for this ship to be in the game yet. But still, it looks pretty fucking cool, if you ask me. And it does make me wonder, how big is this going to be? Is this going to be just one of those sort of ships that's like relatively sized, or are we talking like fucking hell? This is huge. But yeah, no, this is another potential future job role which the player base is going to be able to enjoy utilizing to earn that extra bit of dough, which I'm not going to lie, does sound kind of nice. Or if you're a pirate, this is a perfect target for you. So, 6 of 1. But sadly, that's it for today. Once again, we have wrapped the episode up and the day is done, which I'm feeling quite sad about. But at the same time, I will say this has been a really fun day. It's been a nice sort of enjoyable, not as big as I thought it was going to be. Like, I was convinced that that this day was going to be quite a lengthy day, but surprisingly, we have recorded in a reasonable amount of time, he says. I haven't checked the editing, so this is optimism. This is 100% optimism. But still, I hope you have enjoyed this video series so far, and if you like these kind of ships, do let me know which is your favorite. Let me know what your kind of vessels you really liked, what day you really look forward to in any of the IAEs, and if there's any kind of constructive criticism, do let me know what you think in the comment section down below, clicking on the like button, and of course subscribing to the channel if you want to see more. And I will see you for tomorrow's day, where we will be seeing Misk, and I'm not going to even bother pronouncing its full name, because I never get it right. I will see you then. Yeah, guys, this is Mr. Jaeger, signing out.